Alternative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What is going on, y'all? I'm hoping you can hear me. We got a lot to get into today. For years, we've been told that inclusion means accepting people according to how they identify. And much to the chagrin of many, two men just decided to take the WNBA at its word. And now there's a problem. If the league is serious about their own rules, what exactly can they say? What can they say? How are they going to respond to this? So tonight, we're going to talk about the WNBA getting its bluff called in, I would say, hilarious fashion. But welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God is the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today's Tuesday, August 11th, in the year of our Lord 2026, and we have a packed show for you today. And I'm pretty certain that I'm not going to get through everything that I wanted to talk about, as usual. But before we get started, please do us a favor and do all the algorithm things. Hit like, subscribe, share. Help us to defeat the big tech tyrant's algorithm, and help us to keep growing. It's slowed down a little bit. Hopefully, as the midterm season starts to get traction, we will gain more traction as well. And we also have the individual Mission Ready Men briefing channel. It's the same content, same show, just a different way to access it. So if you haven't checked out the individual channel yet, please do us a favor and head over there and subscribe and like and do all the same algorithm things that we just talked about. So the WNBA. This is the place where they claim that they want to protect women's sports, but whenever somebody says something to that effect, then it's controversial and getting slammed in the face and taken to the ground. That's karma or something. And so two former NBA players decided to identify as women and declare themselves eligible for the WNBA draft. And that's just, what, Tuesday in the WNBA? I mean, it's incredible. But before we get to that, and I never thought I would be spending so much time talking about the WNBA, honestly. The league has been irrelevant for 30 years, and it hasn't made any money at all in that time. Caitlin Clark and everything that's going on now notwithstanding. But let's take a look at something that happened in the past couple of days, and then we'll talk about it, because this is definitely interesting. So let's here we go.
Here's Cunningham up ahead of the field, lays it in, plus the foul, and then Cunningham gets into the face of Dejanay Carrington right away in the aftermath. And Cunningham.
Now, if you're not a sports fan, then that didn't look like much to you. If you don't watch basketball or anything, that didn't look like much to you. But for somebody, I played basketball a lot as a kid. And sometimes we played by some pretty sketchy rules. And even something like that would have been, people would have been scrapping after something like that. But let's take a look at, continue looking at this, because there's a little bit more we got to talk about.
Has to be separated as both teams will head to their benches.
You'll see a Dejanay Carrington as Sophie Cunningham comes down, gets her right across the face, coming down, trying to prevent the layup.
Now, I don't know about you, and if you play basketball, you understand the significance of this. That is a straight mugging. She wasn't trying to go for the ball, no matter what she says. This was her trying to take out Sophie Cunningham.
But that is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant too, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant.
And here's the other thing. If that was just a straight basketball play, she would have done one of two things. She would have either put her hand out and tried to help Sophie Cunningham back up and say, my bad, or she would have made her way to her bench or down the other end of the court. But she didn't do that. She stood there waiting for the reaction and got the reaction she was looking for. And I don't blame Sophie Cunningham at all for that.
There is
wind up. And just getting her out of the way.
Criteria for flagrant foul.
I'll be stunned if this is not upgraded to a flagrant too.
The defensive foul on Dejanay Carrington has been upgraded to a flagrant foul, penalty 2. Since there's wind up, impact, and follow through, high potential for injury, players in a vulnerable position.
So it's a flagrant 2, which means she gets ejected from the game, and the player who she fouled gets 2 foul shots. This was, and I've talked about this before with respect to this league, all the black lesbians in the league, the thugs, going after Caitlin Clark and now Sophie Cunningham. And I've made the point before that they are intentionally going after these women because Caitlin Clark is just a better player than just about everyone in the league. There are a couple that are on her level, but she's white and she's better than them. And then Sophie Cunningham, she's not as good a player as Caitlin Clark, but she's got personality, she's got charisma, she's more attractive than just about everyone else in the league. And I'm not familiar with all the teams in the league. I think, what is there, 6 or 8 teams? I don't know. But she's getting the most attention because she's charismatic and attractive, more attractive than most of them, despite all the makeup and fake lashes and wigs that they wear. So there's that. So Sophie Cunningham, I'm sorry, Dejanay Carrington, named after a condiment, she gets ejected from the game and she goes to the locker room and decides that she's going to use that time to post on social media, which is against the rules, which we may get to, but just so you know, it's against the rules. She wasn't supposed to do that. But this is what she decided she was going to post.
I think that is going to be a flagrant too.
Now that's a replay of the foul, but then this right here down at the bottom. She posts white privilege at Indiana Fever. The privilege of getting your head almost taken off. I mean, what exactly does she mean by that? And of course, she walked it back the next day and said that's not what she meant. Well, it's like, well, that's what you said. And she got upset with guys like Emmanuel Acho, who is a race grifting sportscaster. And even he, when you lose the race grifting sportscasters, then you know you got a problem. And she took issue with that and tried to walk it back, but there was no walking it back. She's trying to play the victim here, even though she's the one that clotheslined Sophie Cunningham. And she says it was never intentional, blah, blah, blah. Nobody believes her. Nobody believes her. And I'll tell you why nobody believes her. Because it's not the first time that she's done something like this. Where is it? I'm going a little bit out of order here. But yeah, it's not the first time that she's done something like this. Check this one out.
Carrington. Whoa! If she would have had.
She just yanked that woman. I'm not sure who the player was, but just yanked her to the ground by her real blonde ponytail, unlike the fake one that this chick is wearing. And and I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I mean it's kind of ironic that she's talking about white privilege as she's sporting a blonde wig in the same style of both of these women that she just assaulted, Sophie Cunningham and this other player. I mean, it's just, I don't know. But getting back to the post, she posted white privilege, and according to the WNBA playbook, rule book, an ejected player or coach must immediately retreat to the locker room or dressing room or leave the building entirely. However, because league policy prohibits players from using personal electronic devices or posting online until all post-game media obligations are fulfilled, they cannot use their phones while waiting in the locker room. So not only did she do her best to take Sophie Cunningham's head off, which she should get suspended for and fined, but she broke the rules again in the locker room. And you want to guess what the punishment has been for any of this? Any guesses? The donut. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, the last time we talked about the WNBA, I talked about how I believe that they were punishing Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark. And I alluded to this a little bit earlier. Punishing them for being straight, white, better than them, better looking than them, more charismatic than them. And Sophie Cunningham's trans comments, I think that was just an excuse or some icing on the cake. Because a lot of that got her the attention that these other Black lesbians aren't getting, and it pissed them off. And so we had that flagrant foul by Carrington on Sophie Cunningham, and to reinforce my hypothesis that the league is actively going after these two women. In the same game, in the exact same game, Caitlin Clark had a play where she was called for a technical foul. Now, let me see if you can, for any sports fans in the chat, let me see if you can pick out what this was. I'm sure you've probably seen it already, but I want to talk about it.
So clearly was a foul, was not called.
Oh, she didn't even say anything.
So clearly was a foul, was not called.
Oh.
She got called for a technical foul just there for bumping into the referee. And according to the refs, putting some extra sauce on the elbow that barely touched this referee, who didn't bother to try to move out the way when she saw her coming towards her at all. And she got teed up. And because she got that technical, and she's gotten so many technicals throughout the season, that was an automatic 1-game suspension. Now, it didn't hold up. The league reversed it because it was obviously a ridiculous foul. And some people say that it was because their next game was going to be on ESPN and they wanted her to play the game. Both things can be true. Who knows? So I think that the league is going after them because also in the same game, that same referee got pushed by a player on the other team, and watch what happens. See that? Deliberately pushed the ref. Nothing. Double standard much? The WNBA is a trash league. It's a trash league that doesn't deserve Caitlin Clark or Sophie Cunningham, frankly, even though Sophie Cunningham's not the caliber player that Clark is, but they're both putting butts in seats, or at least they would if this was a real league. But based on what's been happening, even the Indiana Fever, their attendance is down, despite having those two attractions, because nobody cares. And when they're treating their 2-star attractions like this, people are going to care even less. So why am I talking about the WNBA? If it was just that, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't be spending any time talking about it. But something else happened with respect to the WNBA, and and this was absolutely hilarious. And I alluded to it already. We have a couple of dudes, former NBA players, who have decided that because they can, they are going to, well, they have declared themselves eligible formally for the WNBA draft in 2027. The first one we're going to look at is Enes Kanter Freedom's announcement. And this was, I think this is great. Check this out.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for.
Well played, sir. Absolutely well played. And I know people think it's a joke, and it is. And I know people think this is going to take away from a woman's opportunity, a female player's opportunity to play. That's the point. That's the point. Because that is what's happening all throughout college and professional sports. And this is something that they're going to have to deal with. And I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened sooner than this, frankly. But because the WNBA has put itself out there in this way, these two guys, Enes Kanter Freedom, and there was another guy named Royce White. And this one's even funnier. I mean, it's oh, these guys. This is absolutely well played, and I love it. Let's listen to Royce White as he declares himself eligible.
Why are you getting involved, and how did the WNBA even get to this point?
You know, right now I'm just having a blast in my feminine era. I never thought that I was a woman. You know, I've always trusted the science, and I thought I was a man my entire life. But you know, after further review, strong look at my personal preferences, it would appear that I am indeed sometimes identifying as a transgender woman, and I think it's only fair I get a chance to play with some of my queens here in the twilight of my career, my athletic prime.
Why are you getting involved in?
That is absolutely awesome. I know people are going to have a problem with it, and I get it, but at the end of the day, this is what needs to happen. This is what needs to happen. And nothing exposes the hypocrisy of this ridiculous policy faster than these two guys who actually played in the NBA pointing out the ridiculousness of this inclusion of so-called trans people and them being okay with it. Now, Enes Kanter, he alluded to the rules, and the rules state in the collective bargaining language that only players who are women are eligible. The problem is they don't define what a woman is. And let's be clear, there has never been a need to until 5 minutes ago. Up until then, everybody knew what a woman meant. Everybody knew the definition of a woman. There was never any need to spell out chromosomes or assigned at birth or anything like that. It's just so stupid that we're at this point. And so now we have these two giant dudes declaring themselves eligible for the WNBA draft. And the thing is, because the rules are collectively bargained, the commissioner who has called this task force, this task force meeting to address this, because it's collectively bargained, the commissioner can't just say, okay, no, you can't. There have to be meetings, there have to be votes and all this other stuff before May of 2027. I don't know if they'll be able to get it done. Do I think these two guys are going to get drafted? Probably not. But this bluff needed to be called. This bluff absolutely needed to be called. And I'm glad they finally did it. The commissioner, she wrote this memo, and you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm just going to read part of it to you. because, and I'm also going to read part of what the WNBA Players Association said, but the commissioner Engelbert, I think her name is, says that we recognize that this is a complex and nuanced topic. No, it's not. It's not. It's not complex. It's only complex because you want it to be. It's not complex. Men are men, women are women, and they should not be competing against each other in a professional sports league. Period. End of story. It's not that complex. But she says, we recognize that this is a complex and nuanced topic, and we will continue to have important conversations with all of you and the Players Association in the weeks and months ahead. We also plan to convene additional discussions and offer listening sessions. This is so stupid. And offer listening sessions for any team leaders who would like to participate. Your perspectives and feedback are invaluable, and I appreciate those who have already reached out to share their thoughts. Come on. That is the most ridiculous thing I've, and the whole memo is just stupid. But complex and nuanced. Get out of here. But the Players Association, they had this to say. They said the WNBPA represents 200 plus individual people with different lived experiences, cultures, lifestyles, and opinions. We embrace justice, equality, diversion, and inclusion. There you go, DEI. Those are the values that unite this union and allow it to protect women's sports while creating transformational change. You're not protecting women's sports, because if you can't get a new agreement in place where you define what a woman is to bar these two dudes from getting drafted and participating in the league, you're going to have these two. Well, I suppose teams could just not draft them, which would open them up to all kinds of legal issues. So they almost don't have a choice. So they're going to have to either let them play or get a new agreement in place that defines what a woman is. And then once they define what a woman is, that bars these two guys, the whole game falls apart. It all falls apart. So they are in between a rock and a hard place. And I am completely here for it. And there is absolutely nothing complex or nuanced about it. Oh my goodness, these people. Anyway, I spent a lot more time on the WNBA throughout this whole thing than I ever thought I would be, but here we are. And as long as this goes on, until they come to a conclusion, we're probably going to keep talking about it. I don't know that we'll talk about any of the play on the court, fouls and stuff like that, unless Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark and others get assaulted like they have been. But we'll see. Maybe in these listening sessions, they'll talk about curbing that as well. But anyway, before we move on, because we do have a lot to get into. Before we move on, I do want to get a word in from our sponsor, and our sponsor for today's show is Carry Girl Gear. So summer is winding down, but if you're gonna get her something, make it something that she will actually use. So check out carrygirl.com. Great designs, quality gear, stuff that she's actually going to wear because it fits her lifestyle, not something that's just gonna end up in a drawer with all the rest of your terrible gifts. We got shirts, drinkware, accessories, all of it there, all of it summer ready. So if you're not sure about what you want to get her, just get a gift card. Pick up a gift card, let her pick it out. you'll be a hero. She'll get what she wants, and everybody's happy. So head over to carrygirl.com today and upgrade her gear. Carrygirl.com. Okay. Something else has been in the news quite a bit, and today we have some more races that are some more primaries that are going to be decided. The polls aren't going to close by the time we're done, so we won't really be getting into a lot of that. We'll obviously recap it on the next show, and hopefully we won't have to talk about this guy, but I suspect that we will. We have a number of left-wing, ridiculous candidates who are campaigning with a guy who praises Mao Zedong, Che Guevara as great leaders of the world, great revolutionaries, and who also says that America deserved 9/11. He tells people to, well, you know what, I'm not going to run down everything that he said. Well, because we're gonna listen to some of it. But one of the people he campaigns with, Abdul Rahman El Sayed, if you want to use his full name, even though he says to keep his name out your mouth, but I was never one to follow the instructions of Muslims. But he says that Hasan Piker saying that America deserved 9/11 was a dumb thing said out of context. I'm not sure what the context. I'm not sure how context absolves anyone of saying that. And the context is that he's criticizing somebody who I've criticized quite a bit, Dan Crenshaw. And this was his response to Dan Crenshaw. This was part of his criticism of Dan Crenshaw. And there is a language alert. He's just a vile human being. And but I think it's important that we hear the things that he says and hold the people who are campaigning with this guy and refuse to condemn anything he says, hold them to account for this. Because nobody on the Democrat side who has campaigned with him has condemned any of this. But let's listen. And again, language alert, just letting you know.
This guy has the understanding of foreign policy of like a 12-year-old. What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave fucking soldier, fucked his eye hole with their dick? Isn't that how he lost his fucking dumbass eye? Because he got his fucking eye hole fucked? America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it. Okay, I forgot that I had one of the sources that beeped a lot of that out, so that's good. But nevertheless, this is a guy who has gained so much influence on the left. And I remember they tried, but not tried, they've now succeeded, but they were talking about this guy as the Joe Rogan of the left. And he's got almost 4 million followers, I think, on his various platforms. And I remember thinking when they were pushing this, it's like, there's absolutely no way, given everything that this guy has said, there's no way that they're going to try, much less succeed in pushing this guy out as some kind of
leftist influencer along the lines of a Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan's not exactly, he's no conservative. He's just not crazy. But this is the guy that they've pushed out, and they are working overtime to try and promote him. And El Sayed, like I said, is campaigning with him. He said that July fireworks suck. And he floated the idea of replacing the Second Amendment with an amendment that mandates health care for all. I mean, this guy is wildly out of touch. And he's since those posts and everything about that have come out, he's deleted them. But these two are peas in a pod, Syed and Piker. That might be one of his greatest hits. But let's take a look at another one.
Fidel Castro and Che Guevara are genuinely two of the greatest revolutionaries in history. I love Lenin, I love Fidel Castro, and I love Che Guevara. They are genuinely fucking heroes. Okay? Fidel Castro and Che Guevara are...
Fidel Castro, Che Guevara are two of the greatest revolutionaries, he says. And he loves Lenin too. Don't forget that. And we all know how he feels about Mao. This is the guy they're campaigning with. This is the guy that they are hoping will have the influence to bring back men, to bring back young men. This dude, he's a grade A psychopath, a complete psychopath. And people who campaign with him and refuse to denounce any of these comments, it's astounding to me that we're letting this guy get away with this. And letting the candidates who campaign with them get away with that. Campaign with them and refuse to condemn any of it. This is another great one. And I know people don't like hearing from this guy. I know that it's off-putting to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we have to know who these people are. We have to know who these people are campaigning with. And we have to hold these people account for the things that they say and the things that they refuse to condemn.
Mandami's aide, his top aide, Sia Weaver, said if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property, it's over.
Okay. Before we even get into Piker's response to that, Sia Weaver actually did say, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property. The government doesn't have a sacred right to do anything. The government's responsibility is to protect its citizens. There is nothing sacred about government. And to outright say that the government has a sacred right to seize property, well, you just gave away the game. You see the government as your God. Because the only thing that's sacred is something that's of God. But that's what these people worship. They worship government.
And impoverish the white middle class.
Beast mode. I love her so much. One of the things about Zoran is that The people surrounding him oftentimes are so much cooler than he is.
He thinks that this woman talking about the government seizing private property is cool. These people are insane. Absolutely insane. All right, I got one more before we move on, because this one should make Hasan Piker persona non grata in any public setting. He should have been suspended from all his platforms for this. He should have been, he should be ostracized from polite society for this and a host of other things that he said. I mean, I've played a few, but he has years worth of archives of crap that he said. He streams for 6 to 8 hours a day and has verbal diarrhea for every one of those hours. So we're just scratching the surface here with these few clips. He has an entire archive of trash that he's spewed over the years. But this one is one of the worst. And if you say it is the worst, I'm not going to argue with you. In fact, I'd probably agree with you. This is of the ones that I've seen so far. This is probably the worst. I'm going to grant that. But let's take a listen to it. And I think there's a bit of a language alert on this one as well. So if you have sensitive ears, feel free to block them for the next 10 or 15 seconds. But let's listen to this.
We're going to keep bringing in immigrants into this country on purpose, just so they can fuck your sister, and then maybe even your daughter. We're going to destroy the white race, bitch. That's what we're here to do. We're going to...
What more do you need to hear? And it's not like he's some fringe Muslim that other Muslims denounce. No, he is putting in the most extreme terms exactly what these imams that I've played so many clips of say. He's saying it in a much cruder way, but this is what they believe. This is their intention. And not a single one of the DSA operatives or anyone campaign, none of them have condemned any of this. None of them. They explain it away. It was out of context. Stupid thing to say. Some guy said some things. He didn't mean it. He's just saying things to be provocative. He doesn't, come on. He is a devout Muslim who believes the Quran, and he is saying what all of the other imams say, just in a less eloquent way, in a much more crude way. And the fact that none of these people are condemning any of it should tell you everything you need to know. It should tell you everything you need to know. This is what they believe. El Sayed, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and all the host of other Muslims who are in elected office in this country. And people have said, well, Trump has Dr. Oz in his cabinet. I didn't like that either. I didn't like that either. I don't know if Oz is a cultural Muslim or he actually practices the religion. I don't know. I don't care. He hasn't renounced it. And to my knowledge, he hasn't condemned Hasan Piker or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or any of the other ones. And with the practice of taqiyya and darura and all the other Islamic doctrines that allow them to be deceitful, how are you going to trust it? So, yeah, I'm consistent on that. When you refuse to denounce this type of rhetoric, and then you quietly delete the receipts of your own rhetoric, it stops looking like a strategy, and it starts looking like the actual product that they're selling. And I don't know about you, but I want no parts of it. And so if you didn't like hearing Hasan Piker's garbage, I'm not going to, when I come across it, I'm going to play it, because this needs to get out. People need to know. All right, but that's we're gonna move on from that and talk about something else, because there's a subject that I haven't really talked about. I haven't talked about it all, actually, and I haven't talked about it because I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't want to just come on here and spout a knee-jerk reaction without actually having read up on what the issues are. And I'm talking about the issue with these flock security cameras. And there are a host of concerns around these cameras. And the first thing I'm going to say is that you might not like this first thing I'm going to say, but stick with me. These cameras work. They work. A stolen vehicle can get tracked across county lines before, in some cases, the report is even on the stolen vehicle is even complete. Missing people have been found. Flock's numbers claim that there are thousands of missing persons assists that have taken place, and their cameras have helped solve quite a number of cases. It's their numbers, so take that how you will. But police departments have confirmed that these cameras have assisted them in solving a number of cases. So yes, the technology that they've invented can help find cars, people, help locate suspects. Congratulations. We have invented a better way to solve crimes by photographing every single law-abiding citizen in the process. The problem is everything else that's attendant to this. It doesn't just end with a stolen vehicle's license plate. It reads yours. It reads yours on the way to work. It reads yours on the way to church. It reads yours on the way to your doctor's office. It reads yours on the way to the liquor store. It reads yours on the way to the strip club if you're into that sort of thing. The bar, it reads yours everywhere you go. It reads yours on the way to the gun store, if you're into that sort of thing, which I am. And these newer cameras, they can identify the dent in your door. They can identify the broken tail light, the crack in your windshield. These cameras can read the electronic signatures inside your car. It can read your cell phone data. It can read your vehicle's GPS if it's equipped with one. It can develop a complete personal fingerprint of you and your habits. And it's effectively a dragnet, because this camera is part of a system that takes all that data that it collects, uploads it to a database, a searchable database, where everything that you've done that it captures is public. And where people have tried to sue municipalities for having these cameras, the response has been, in some jurisdictions, I think in Colorado, they said, you have no expectation of privacy on a public street. This is a gift to the tyrants. This is a gift to the surveillance state. And yeah, we give up a lot of our data knowingly and unknowingly. I understand that. But we know this. We see what's happening. We can see the cameras up on the poles. And we know what they're capable of. Now, in my state of Arkansas, a lot of cities and counties are catching on. Pea Ridge residents have raised enough of a ruckus about this on privacy and Fourth Amendment grounds that they scrapped the program for now. Cabot, another city, suspended the cameras after the mayor was made to realize that public safety and civil liberties should work together, not diametrically opposed. Mayflower flat out calls it intrusive, and have opted not to participate. Greer's Ferry, another area in Arkansas, there was a couple in Greer's Ferry that actually had one of these cameras pointed directly at their driveway. Directly at their driveway. They would catch them doing everything. And the city said, sorry about your bad luck, we're not moving it. They got lawyers involved and they moved it. The opportunities for abuse is not hypothetical or theoretical. Officers have been arrested for using the system to stalk women that they're interested in. And the systems are not infallible. False stolen vehicle hits have put innocent people driving their own vehicles in a position where they're being pulled over and pulled out of their vehicles at gunpoint because the software didn't read a letter correctly. And of course, the left is upset because of the way it can be used for immigration searches. And that's been done, even though the local policy was against that. Contracts have been canceled. But in some cases, those contracts are canceled and they just went with another company and put that other company's cameras up on the poles. Axon, which is a company that does police body cams, they have a similar system to Flock, and some municipalities canceled the Flock contract and went with Axon. It's like an alcoholic who wants to quit drinking beer and then moves to wine. I mean, it's the same thing. And this is not new. This is not new. When I was looking into this, it turns out that there was a project after World War II called Project Shamrock. Project Shamrock was they were tapping into telegraph companies and reading all of those messages. No warrants, no court orders. It was an extension of the program that they used during the war, where they would intercept those messages, and they just continued the process stateside. And when it finally came to light, Congress acted and they put limits on it. This technology that they used during the war was extremely helpful. But the technology that starts with these good intentions, with zero rules and zero guardrails, will just expand until the public finds out and forces the powers that be to implement some rules. Flock is just the latest iteration of this, the latest remake. And along those lines, once the progress was uncovered and the public was made aware of it, it was shut down to be replaced by FISA. And I don't think we need to get into all the abuses and everything that went on with FISA is going on with FISA right now. We've seen how that we've seen that play out too. The Fourth Amendment was written by people who lived under these types of general warrants, the kind that let the British just search anyone they felt like without any explanation. And a camera that photographs every vehicle and tracks all of its electronic signatures is a warrant without a name on it. And yeah, the proponents will say it's only searchable for a certain amount of time and municipalities can shorten that time, but they can also lengthen it. There's a default, I think, of 30 days, and it can be negotiated down to the 10 days or whatever they want, but it can also be negotiated up. And I'm not sure that there's a limit on what that can. I haven't been able to find if there is an upper limit as to how that can be negotiated. which is another scary thought. And even though right now there's no export feature where the municipalities can export the data and keep it indefinitely. There's no mechanism for that yet. But rest assured that people are working on it. Mission creep and stuff like this is not a bug. It's a business model. It starts with stolen cars and missing persons, and then it becomes a general purpose, all-purpose database that allows law enforcement to just search whatever it wants, whenever it wants. Officers can start searching for their ex-girlfriends and find out if their wives or girlfriends are cheating on them. They can search by a tattoo. They can search by a t-shirt logo. This data can be shared farther and faster than I'm sure even the people who created the system, maybe not, considering they named it Flock, because they think of us as sheep, honestly. But probably farther than they intentionally pitched to the municipalities and departments that were looking at purchasing this system. And it's not a left or right thing either, because Republicans like Tim Burchett and Keith Self are trying to get bills in place to block federal access or cut funding, require warrants and things of that nature. But the Democrats, as we alluded to earlier, they're talking about this from an immigration perspective. Now, when you have the left and the right, regardless of their reasoning, but when you have them agreeing on a specific outcome, you have lost the plot, because that just does not happen. So if you got leftists and conservatives agreeing that this is a bad idea, there's a really good chance that this is a terrible idea. Terrible. The cameras don't care how you vote. The tyrants who are running it don't care how you vote, because they have all the information that they want. And they file it under public safety. And there have been instances where the cameras have been smashed and taken down and all stuff like that. That probably feels good, but it doesn't accomplish anything. It's not going to accomplish anything. They'll replace it. And there's a really good chance that they caught you on camera doing it, in which case you will be arrested, tried, and prosecuted. And the company and the police department can play the victim, because you destroyed their property. The only thing that's gonna curb this, the only thing that's going to stop this in its tracks, is writing and passing laws to stop it. And all politics is local. We talk a lot about national issues, but all politics is local. Go to your city council meetings. Go to your county meetings. Ask the questions. Let your voices be heard that you're completely against this. And if they're insistent on implementing this madness, then demand the shortest possible retention period for this data. Of course, the optimal thing is to just ban it outright, but especially in some leftist areas, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. Because once we let these things become a permanent part of the infrastructure, it's just going to be how it is. And eventually people will just forget until it misreads their license plate and they get taken down by the cops at gunpoint. All right, let's there's a couple other things I want to get to. One of them we may not get to, even though it's in the description. We'll see how things go. But this one I think is more important because I want to talk about what's happening in my former state of Massachusetts. And what's happening in Massachusetts is evil and demonic. Life is sacred from the beginning. Scripture tells us that every human being is made in the image and likeness of God. Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Figured I put that extra clause in there, just calling back to what we talked about earlier. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. Governor Healy in Massachusetts just passed a bill, or just signed a bill into law, that removes the gestational limit for the killing of an unborn baby. The limit had been 24 weeks, which a baby at 24 weeks is viable and able to survive outside the womb. There are, I think the youngest, the earliest development, I believe, is 18 weeks, 16 or 18 weeks, that have survived and gone on to live a happy, healthy life. And now there's no limit in Massachusetts. And I just want to show you, this is a short clip to show you just how depraved this is. They were clapping and smiling and celebrating like this was some great accomplishment. But that celebration is jarring when you think about what they just did, what she just signed into law. These women are smiling and applauding as the governor just signed the death warrants of tens of thousands of babies. Now, from a Christian point of view, ending the life of anyone, let alone a defenseless child, is not cause for celebration. And if you are celebrating, then you need Jesus. And I don't know if you noticed something about the video. It was only 10 seconds, but there was something stark that I noticed about the video. And if you noticed it, let me know in the comments. But we will circle back to that in a second. But the sixth commandment says, you shall not murder. And the Bible is consistently talking against shedding innocent blood. And that 100% applies in this case. When the law permits the judgment of the professional judgment of a doctor, let that be the lone criteria for ending a pregnancy at any stage, including the final weeks, up to and including the 40th week, up to and including being on the delivery table. Yeah, I mean there are no limits. So that could happen. And we saw this play out with former Governor Ralph Northam in Virginia, when he basically laid out the entire scenario in that instance. But when you allow that treats human beings as disposable rather than being made in the imago Dei, with inherent dignity and value. They like to say abortion is health care. Abortion is not health care because pregnancy is not a disease. And I wish I could say I came up with that on my own. I didn't. I saw it somewhere and I didn't take note of it, so I can't hat tip the person who where I did get it from. But it's great. And it perfectly encapsulates and refutes their argument. Christians are always called to defend those who can't speak for or defend themselves. And a child at 24 weeks or 30 weeks or 35 weeks or 40 weeks, those are the most vulnerable members of humanity. And removing every objective limit and protection for them abandons that biblical responsibility. And of course, with these people in these leftist jurisdictions, the Bible doesn't really enter into the equation. I'm well aware of that. Now, this is not to say that the mothers who find themselves in these positions, whether through an assault, rape, things of that nature, that's not to say that those women don't deserve compassion and understanding. That situation for those women is very real. That suffering is very real. The fear, the medical expense and complexity that some of these women face is very real. And compassion requires support, medical care, and abortion does not fall into that category, as we've already discussed. Alternatives like crisis pregnancy centers, adoption, other material help, rather than treating the murder of that baby as the solution. All human lives are precious. Every child, regardless of race or ability or the circumstances of their conception, they all bear God's image. Now, getting back to the clip, I'm going to play it again. And I want to see if you notice what I noticed. Did you catch it? Once I tell you it's pretty obvious, but Planned Parenthood started as a project of Margaret Sanger in order to reduce the number of non-white babies being born. Every one of those women clapping and celebrating. Maybe there are a couple that aren't, but almost all of them are white women. 68 to 70%, depending on which data you look at, of all babies murdered by abortion are minorities. Now, God doesn't care about the race of the children being killed, only that they are being killed. But I find it curious that it's white women that are celebrating the deaths of those innocent minority children. I find that curious. Followers of Christ are called to pray, be compassionate, speak the truth in love, support people in crisis, support women in crisis, and work to get laws in place that protect both the women and the children. Silence or celebration in the face of this horror is completely incompatible with a Christian lifestyle, with the gospel of Jesus Christ. The two are completely incompatible. And to celebrate such a horrific occasion, I don't get it. Maura Healey said, I believe, as long as she was governor of Massachusetts, abortion was going to be safe, legal, and I can't remember the exact wording she used, but when I read it, there was a time not that long ago when even Democrats said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. Now, of course, here we think it should be completely abolished. But even then, they recognize that it's not something that should be readily available for convenience sake. But now, if you wake up in labor at 40 weeks and decide for whatever ridiculous reason you don't want the baby anymore, they can terminate that baby. And it will be completely legal. And that is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. All right. I see the chat is lively. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to the moderators for for holding it down and keeping people in line. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's I don't know what else to say about that. That's just insane. And I am so glad I don't live in Massachusetts anymore. I was gonna talk about Fauci and the texts that were released, and it kind of goes along with the subject we were just talking about. But I don't want to talk about Fauci right now, so I'm not going to. We might revisit that, especially if there's any new developments. We might talk about that on Thursday. But there was one other subject that I did want to get into, and I think we might have time. It's on my backup roster, so let me just pull that up real quick. And yeah, I was going to talk about that too, but now let's do this, because I think this is a little less nuanced and a little less. We don't have to dig too deep into it to just understand exactly what's going on here. Nancy Mace, she said something that got a lot of people upset. And she said that Muslim lawmakers, well, let's just take a look at it. She said every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. We refuse to be silent. I've said essentially the same thing on this show a number of times. I haven't said it in exactly that way, but I have said that Muslims, especially those not born in this country, should never be allowed to hold public office. And I am perfectly fine with Muslims who were not born in this country, not to hold public office. But Nancy Mace put it out there, and I applaud her for it. And when somebody called her, Pramila Jayapal called her a transphobe, and she said, called her an Islamophobe, and she said, yeah. She said, I don't want to get stabbed or blown up by a suicide bomber, nor do I want to hear the call to prayer 5 times a day in the United States of America. Total Islamophobe here. Again, how can you argue that? How can you argue that? I can't. Now, she was on CNN, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because that segment was about 4 minutes long. But let's listen to what Ms. Mace had to say.
Online. A few days ago, you wrote, quote, every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. And then today you essentially added, if not wanting to be blown up, stabbed, or rammed by a car by a radical Islamist in the United States of America makes us Islamophobes, then so be it. Are you saying that anyone who is Muslim is a threat to this country?
That's not what I said, and that's not what I said. Number one, I think we do have a real issue with radical
it sounds
Islamic
like that's what you're saying.
No, I was talking about elected officials. When you look at what has just happened.
So any Muslim elected officials, sorry to cut you off, but just to be clear, any elected Muslim officials.
Mamdani campaigned with an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center.
I've made that point several times.
Bombings. You have Abdul al-Sayed, who was campaigning with Hasan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. Yes, we should be very concerned.
He said he regretted those comments, but
No, he didn't. People keep saying that. People keep saying that Hasan Piker said he regretted making those statements. No, he didn't. I've looked. There is no evidence to suggest that. And everything that he's said since then, even if he did say it, would prove that he lied. Not only that, it was just maybe a month or so ago that he bragged about having the New York Times from September 12th framed and hung up on his wall in his studio. That's in every shot when he's in his studio behind him. He did not regret it. And anyone who says that is either lying or... Anyway, let's move on.
Take your point.
But that believe in this radical Islam ideology where women are covered head to toe. It's very oppressive, where we've seen grooming gangs over in Europe.
But Congresswoman, there's no indication that Mayor Mamdani has brought any of those ideals to New York City governance, or that just being Muslim allows you, brings those in.
If you're playing footsie with an imam here in America, who's an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombings, yeah, we have a real problem with that kind of ideology.
He goes on to defend it, and it's just ridiculous. I do not understand how people defend this madness. I know people will say, freedom of religion, it's in our Constitution. We have enforced laws against cults in the past in this country, and it's time to do it again. Islam is not a religion. It's a death cult, and its practitioners are carrying out a battle plan. And we got to put a stop to it. All right, we are just about out of time, so I am going to call it there. I am Big E, and you have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch our great lineup. I'm not sure about Sackhead Sean and Jersey Joe when they will be back, but Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein will be back this Friday, if all goes well. Last I heard, he will be back on Friday, so please be sure to tune in and check his show out every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And BZ, the saloon is open tonight, the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. He will be on in about a half an hour from now, so be sure to check him out. He has got a banger of a show lined up, and I'm looking forward to it. And please like, subscribe, share the guys' shows. Let everyone know. Help us get the message out, and pray for us that we have a major breakthrough, especially during this midterm election season. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can with the truth. And that's going to do it for this briefing. And we're not just here to yammer and fill airtime. We're here to equip Christian men and carry the banner of, spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if any of what we said here tonight resonated with you, please share it. Don't just watch. Share it. Bring another man into this battle. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com and hit Shop 7 Armors and check out all of the great designs that we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, check out the SHR Media Shop and check out all of the gear we have for the guys' shows, and all the gear we have there. We have the SHR Media mug, which is an awesome mug, and help us keep this independent journalism and commentary we have going. Help us keep it going. And remember, when seconds count, The police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.